how are we supposed to put all these tendencies into perspective? What is really going on here?
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a way of considering that question is this. I don't know how many people I've heard say in the last 5 or 10 years to me, where is God? Where's Christ? Is he not supposed to be watching over the church? Surely God is going to do something now. They usually said this to me apropos of some action of a bishop or a priest. We had finally had our 10th pederastic priest caught by the police, or we finally had some new statement by a bishop or a cardinal which went dead against what we were taught in school. And they say, well, why doesn't God step in? Surely he's going to appear in the heavens, or the Pope is going to do something. Why doesn't somebody do something? God or the Pope or Jesus or the angel? And you know, when his enemies captured Jesus, late at night, they probably held him from 9 p.m. until 6 p.m. the following day, when he slumped over and died with a loud cry, and Joseph of Arimathea came with the authorization to shift the body. During that time, I'm sure Our Lady didn't say it, I'm sure John the Evangelist didn't say it, perhaps Mary Magdalene didn't say it, but you may be sure that the 500 disciples gathered into Jerusalem, and all the apostles went around saying, well, he's going to suddenly wise up. God is going to intervene. He's going to send an army of angels to save him. He's going to do something. But you know, Bernard, he did nothing. It was to go inexorably through to entombment before resurrection. Similarly with us. There isn't going to be an action of God. There's going to be no intervention of Christ. There's going to be no sudden change where everything will be hunky-dory finally back Catholic as it was. Bernard, it will never be as it was. The church will never be restored as it was. That is dead and gone. We're going to entombment before we get to resurrection. You know, here's the problem. Take yourself back to First Friday, the Good Friday. And the word has come to Our Lady and the women with her and St. John that he's been condemned to die. And they're taking him out to Calvary. Everybody knew where Calvary was. Everybody knew it. Just as we know where Arlington is here in the States. Or you know someplace in Canada, well-known dead place. So they rushed out of the house to try and see him. They hadn't seen him for about 2 days. The last time they saw him was in Bethania with Lazarus and Mary and Martha, where he used to lie with them at night, cuddling them and holding them and being consoled. Because at that time, just prior to his passion, he was being attacked in the streets of Jerusalem, and he was under great pressure. So they rushed to the streets, and they found a vantage point finally in the Via Dolorosa, where they could see the procession coming. Roman soldiers, the people, the priests, and this figure under the crossbeam. He was only carrying crossbeam. The upright was always permanently on Calvary to receive the crossbeam in a socket. Now Our Lady, she had borne this body. She had seen him from the first moment he was born. She knew every line in that body. She knew all his features. And she had lived with him for all those years of his public life. She knew nothing about him. Yet when she saw that face coming around the corner, first of all clad in this awful robe they put on him in mockery, with a crown of thorns on him, the pallor of death on him, sweating, his face torn, his nose broken, with one black eye we know from the shroud, and with all the blood he had lost. If you've ever seen a person dying in those conditions, I've seen them once, they're unrecognizable. You don't know them. She took time to notice her Jesus. She took a moment to see from some trait, some gesture, some look in his eye, something as he passed her. Similarly as with the church. We cannot recognize the Catholic Church today. It is so torn to pieces, so lacerated, so beaten up, so bloodied, so dehumanized or de-divinized. We have to have faith. The faith she had saying, yes, that is our Jesus. And then she went to Calvary to watch him die. We still have to see this being die completely, entombment, and to see the tears of it all. That's what we're facing. And that's what Jesus wills, apparently, to allow. And that's what we're facing into today. Entombment. Gradual entombment of the Catholic ideal. Everywhere. In public life and private life.
And could it be that those of us who are still practicing the Catholic faith are simply going to have to carry our cross?
That's right, until we die. And that's all that's required of us. What do you think Our Lady had to carry for all those years in faith? The same thing. She had what we had. She had him. We have him sacramentally. She had the mystery, the Annunciation, and the Visitation, and the Presentation. and the finding of the temple, and all the other mysteries we haven't been told about. That's all she had. And then the mysteries of his miracles in the public life. And then finally his death. And until he appeared to her, I'm sure she was the first one he came to after his resurrection. And that scene is something I can't talk about. It's so emotional. But until that moment, she had no assurance beyond her faith. Yet she never wavered. She never wavered. So similarly with us, we may have to die as we are. And another generation find out what Christ's plans with the present world are. But we have only one thing to do, and that is faith, and the rosary, and the Blessed Sacrament, and Mass. We needn't bother about anything else. We haven't got the grace to do anything about it. He has not put us in a position to do anything about it. And all we do is live in our faith and die in our faith, and don't compromise. That's all we can do. Because now the thing is cosmic. Now the thing is geopolitical. Now it's out of everybody's hands. Because from all the evidence we have, apparently Lucifer is in his last leg. He is going to extremes because he knows the end is near of this period. These Catholic times are coming to an end, and they'll be over soon, within this decade, the present Pope, I believe. And Satan will be totally rejected and lose the kingdom he has carved out for himself in the Catholic Church and in the world of man. And there'll be a complete changeover. How many of us will see it? I don't know. Do I want to see it? I'm indifferent. What I have to do is to be done every day. Carry my cross after him daily, as he said. That's all that's necessary. I can't bother about this huge struggle because it's beyond my powers. It's cosmic. It's geopolitical. It involves huge superpowers. It involves all the nations of the world. It involves the coming of Our Lady. And you know, one word about Our Lady. There's a scene in the early days of Lourdes. When it became known that Bernadette was talking to the lady, Notre Dame, the local peasants, she was a peasant, used to gather behind her, but she was talking to the lady standing in the grotto. They couldn't see it, they could hear her talking. And one day, while they were all there, and she was talking to Our Lady, Our Lady was talking about the Immaculate Conception, and Our Lady was smiling apparently. Suddenly, in one of the other caves, the place that had little grottos and caves, a growling as of wild animals started. And the people heard it. It was a very strange growling, a rumbling, threatening growl, as if wild animals were inside and were about to come out and rend them limb from limb. And Bernadette later said that all Our Lady did, she didn't say a word, all Our Lady did was move her head and look at the cave, and it all stopped like that. That's power. That's power. And she can stop all this suddenly by her will, invested with the power of God. But she must do it. And when she do it, we don't know. She has said she will do it. But until then, this stream of filth and corruption and decadence in the church, the institutional organization, is going to go on unabated. And you and I can't stop it, except by prayer. And prayer for individuals, clergy and laity. Prayer for this cause or that cause. We can't stop the onrush of this drama, because it is a drama. It is Satan in the final throes of his struggle against Jesus. He's had his liberty, and he's done damage. And he's gained millions of souls. They're falling like leaves into hell, Our Lady told Lucia. Leaves, cardinals, bishops, priests, lay people, men and women and children. But she would end it all, she said, because he had granted that power to my Immaculate Heart.
And of course that is part of the message of Fatima, that she will end it all.
That is the message. But we don't know when, we don't know how, and we needn't bother. That's not our job. It's too big for us all. Pity therefore the man in Rome, John Paul II, caught in the engrenage, the mechanism of the superforce, inhabiting his Vatican, faced with the total revolt of his bishops, and the falling away of whole nations in faith, having to sit down with Mikhail Sergeyevich Gorbachev, knowing that Gorbachev himself is caught in the net of God's providence, and knowing that perhaps he'll return to the faith he had when he was a boy of 10, singing old Slavonic hymns beside his mummy before Holy Communion in the parish church of Privonnaya in southern Russia. Perhaps he won't. Perhaps he'll go to hell with the rest of them who have opposed God. And knowing that he's only a puppet, that God can break into at any given moment once he's done the work God wants him to do in the recreation of man's devotion to God. Pity him, though, his judgment, the weight, the burden on it. And no wonder from being a fresh-faced, almost leopard-like walking man, walking like a panther, he now is worn, stark-faced. He walks slowly. He's carrying a burden. deep burden. And he has to sit down opposite a pagan like that, who has his little cunning Leninist plot, and who's smiling and smiling, like a villain, as Shakespeare said. And he must pray for him, and must shake hands with him and his wife, and try in some way to leave some drop of grace in him from his words and from the action of Jesus. And still he must know that he himself carries the burden of waiting for Mary, for the right time and the right place. Pity this man. Pity him. He needs prayer. He needs consolation. He needs support. He needs prayer.